Welcome back to the Blue Chip Breakdown, Vols fans. I'm your host, Bull, and in today's video, we're going to take a look at the matchup between the Tennessee Volunteers offense and the Georgia Bulldogs defense. Now, I know that there are a lot of you Volunteer fans that feel really down about this game. You think that we just do not have a chance, but I will tell you this, man. Tennessee's coming off of the worst game in Josh Heupel's tenure, okay? That's not going to happen again, and Georgia's coming off of their best game of the season by far, okay? So we just saw Tennessee's floor and we saw Georgia's ceiling. We're going to meet somewhere in between that on Saturday. The fans will play a big factor in this game. We have got to get the confidence back up. We're starting to act a lot like Georgia fans, all right? Like we're scared of our own damn shadow. We've got to get out of that mentality. Now, I get it, having a bad game in the season, not going the way that we wanted it to, can kind of get you down, but we've got to continue to support this football team. All right, floor for this team is probably going to be like 8-4, maybe 9-4 with the bowl game, something like that, possibly, like 8-5, something like that. Okay. But that's not that bad, guys. Like, you have to keep in mind where this team came from. This is only Josh Heupel's third season with this football team. He lost a lot of players to the transfer portal. We have lost a lot of depth. We still are trying to build it up to be able to get on par with some of these upper echelon teams. Now, I will also say this: Tennessee starters can play with anybody in the entire country. What makes these teams like Georgia and Bama, all those types of teams really dangerous is their depth, okay? That's where things can kind of get a little bit tricky for Tennessee. But if you think that we can't play with these guys, then you have not been watching this team and you really don't have any faith in this team. And I don't want to say that you're not a real fan, but I think that, some of you guys need to take a little bit of a look in the mirror and ask yourself, how is this going to look to, some of these prospects coming up on campus, seeing some of these comments on social media? If Georgia takes over Neyland, how's that going to look? We've got some big time guys coming in to visit that we're going to need moving forward. Okay. So we've got to continue to support this football team through thick and thin. All right. Now, I just wanted to get that out of the way. With all that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the numbers. All right. Starting off with Tennessee's total offense. All right, so Tennessee is ranked number 17 in the country in total offense with 4,548 yards. That's 454.8 yards per game and 6.58 yards per play. Also the number 35 scoring team in the country with 32 points per game. Georgia's total defense is ranked number 9th in the country. All right, they have given up 2,892 yards. That's 289.2 yards per game and 4.73 yards per play. They're number 6 in scoring, only giving up 15.6 points per game. All right, now for the rushing numbers, Tennessee is ranked number 7th in the country in rushing. We have 2,133 yards, 213.3 yards per game, 5.6 yards per carry, and 17 touchdowns on the ground. Georgia's defense is ranked number 18th in the country with 1,079 yards given up. That's 107.9 yards per game. They're giving up 3.7 yards per carry, and they've given up 9 touchdowns on the ground. All right, on to the passing numbers. Tennessee is ranked number 54 in passing offense with 2,415 yards. That's 241.5 yards per game, 64.5% passes completed, 17 touchdowns with only 5 interceptions. And we're ranked number 39th in the country in sacks given up with 16 on the season. That's 1.6 sacks per game. Georgia is ranked the number 14th pass defense in the country, giving up 1,813 yards. That's 181.3 yards per game, giving up 56.3% completions, 11 touchdowns, and they have 12 interceptions. They're also ranked the number 57th team in the country in sacks with only 22. That's only good for 2.2 sacks per game. Now on to the last two categories, starting off with third down. Tennessee is ranked number 27th in the country in third down offense, converting at 44.6%, and Georgia is ranked number 7th in the country, only allowing 28.1% conversions on third down. Last one right here, red zone numbers. Tennessee is ranked number 70th in the country in red zone offense, converting at 83.3%. We have 21 touchdowns, 14 field goals on 42 attempts. 12 of those touchdowns are rushing, 9 of them are passing, and Georgia is ranked number 118th in the country in red zone defense, allowing 91.3% of opponents in the red zone to convert scores. 16 of those are touchdowns, 5 of those are field goals on 23 attempts, and 9 of the touchdowns have been rushing, 7 of them have been passing. All right, so when you look at those numbers, it's pretty obvious that this is not the dominant Georgia defenses of the past couple of seasons. It's nowhere near that, okay? they have some good players everywhere, all right, and they play very disciplined football. I know I keep on saying that through all these videos, but that's what Georgia's good at. They're good at just doing their jobs. They don't have any game records. There's no one on their team that, you know, you would say, oh my gosh, you know, how are we going to be able to stop this guy? Nothing like what they've had the past couple of seasons, especially last year. The way that, you know, Georgia was able to slow down Tennessee's offense was because they had guys up front that were just absolute game wreckers. They don't have those guys this season. They're not going to probably be able to play us too similar to the way that they did last year. We saw a lot of three-man lines last year. We may see some of that this season, but I think that, you know, looking at those numbers, Tennessee will be able to run on Georgia's defense. Okay, it can happen. Question is, are we going to come fired up and ready to go? I feel like we will. Cooper Mays played very well up against this defense last season, and he's going to have the entire offense, but especially that front, ready to rock and roll. They're going to play nasty, they're going to play physical, and they're going to play fast. So expect us to have a lot of success in the running game. Now, the other caveat to all of this is Georgia's red zone defense. It's just not good. It's one of the worst in the entire country. All right, so we can find some success there if we can get into the red zone. I feel like Tennessee will be able to move the football down the field on Georgia. Question is going to be, is Coach Heupel going to, you know, go for it on fourth down situations? And if he does, will we be able to convert on those opportunities? Okay, or will he try to take those field goals and get those points? I kind of feel like he needs to try to take those points, but again, that's something that you will, you know, kind of fill out through the flow of the football game. Now, let's get into Georgia's key players on defense. All right, so the first guy is number 2. I'm not quite sure how to say his name. I think it's Esmael Munden Jr. He's 6'3", 225 pounds. He is their middle linebacker. He's their starter. Now, he is leading the team with 48 tackles, and he has 3 sacks. So Munden is a tall, long, you know, fast, rangy guy. He does a really good job, you know, again, just like everyone else on this team, of just kind of doing what he's supposed to do. Whenever he sees the run, he does a good job of, you know, getting around blocks, beating them with speed. You know, he's strong at the point of contact. He's a good, solid, fundamental tackler. One of the things that really stood out to me, though, was his pass coverage. He's really good in coverage. So they don't use him a ton in pass coverage, but when they do, he does a really good job of, you know, again, just doing what he's coached to do. Now, something else that I've seen out of Munden is him kind of spying. What you'll see is Georgia drop into like a Tampa 2 look on passing situations, and he'll kind of stand right there in the middle of the football field. Their edge guys will get up the field, and, you know, the guys in the middle will kind of create some lanes. As soon as Munden sees that lane, he pretty much shoots to the quarterback, and that's how he's got those 3 sacks this season. Now, he is the second leading sacker on this team with only 3 sacks. Okay, their leading guy, Dumas Johnson, is out. Okay, or at least I think he's out. I think he's got a broken forearm, something like that. Not sure if he's going to be playing in this game, but so, I mean, that's how their pass rush kind of gets to the quarterback is, you know, with blitzes and things like that. They will also bring him on blitzes. He is a good, solid player. Again, he is not a game wrecker. We can block him, you know, we can run through him, kind of, you know, drive him backwards because he's only 225 pounds. He's not a big guy, but he does play physical, again, like everyone else on this defense. On to the next guy. And he is number 23, Taki Smith. He's 5'10", 205 pounds. He is a defensive back, but he plays nickel in their system. He is second on the team in tackles with 46. He has 2 sacks and 4 interceptions. All right, now Taki is a guy that, you know, again, he's playing in the slot at nickel, so he's going to be guarding our slot guys. I would love to see Coach Heupel get him matched up with somebody like Castles or Jacob Warren, one of our bigger body guys, and be able to, you know, get some easy, quick slants, hitches, things like that, because he's not a big guy. He's only 5'10". We're talking about guys that are 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". It would be very difficult for him to be able to cover them. Josh Heupel can scheme that up. He can make those matchups happen. I would love to see us as an offense spread Georgia's defense out as much as possible and just run at them and just, you know, kind of create those mismatches whenever we have got to convert on passing plays. Now, Taki does a good job of coming up and tackling. You know, again, he's going to be a physical player. He's going to play with excellent leverage. All the fundamental stuff, all these guys do very well. Now, I'm not going to talk about a lot of Georgia's players, but just keep in mind, for anyone that I did not mention, expect the exact same thing. Something else that I can say about Taki is that just like their other secondary players, he's very handsy in coverage, okay? He is going to mug the wide receivers. Our guys are going to have to play tough, play physical to be able to fight through that, and they're going to have to make some tough catches. Georgia's defense does a really good job of creating very small passing windows for the quarterback. And, again, it's just going to take our wide receivers and tight ends, whoever, to be able to fight for that football in those one-on-one situations. But we will be able to find some, and, we can get some pass interference calls. Not, going to hold my breath on that, because obviously the SEC is going to be trying to cheat for Georgia as much as possible. But we have to leave no doubt. All right, we cannot be looking for those flags. We have got to play fast. We've got to play physical, and we will have guys open. They're not as good in coverage as a lot of people think. Again, they have kind of built their defense around mugging, guys going out for passes and just hoping that the referees don't throw it. And most of the time they're not. Next guy is number 22, Javon Bullard. He's 5'11", 195 pounds. He plays safety. He has 38 tackles in the season and 2 interceptions. All right, now Bullard is more of a free safety guy. I've seen him be the one that drops deep on their one high looks. You're going to see him drop back a lot. He's not going to come up into the box too much. Whenever he does, he really is probably playing more of like a man coverage look. He's covering somebody. They also spy him as well. He is a good football player. He's solid. He tries to come up and be physical, but he really isn't that physical of a guy. He's just not that big. Some of their safeties and, guys like that, really everyone on their defense, just to be honest with you, they kind of seem undersized. Like their skill guys are kind of undersized for what you would expect from the SEC secondary and from the SEC linebacking core. They just don't have a whole lot of weight to them. They don't necessarily have a whole lot of height and length to them everywhere. Some of them do, but the last two that we just talked about don't. So saying all of that just to say that we can find success beating him in coverage. He's not great in coverage, guys. Again, he is going to rely on mugging whoever's going out for the pass. And if we can fight through that, we will be able to get open. We saw that some last season. I've seen it a lot this season. Guys being able to beat them deep, and we can do it too. So have some faith, have some confidence. It's up to Josh Heupel to scheme some things up. And it's going to be up to these players to go out there and perform. Now, something else that I will say is that I want to see some offensive linemen kind of pulling around to get some of these secondary guys that are coming up the field so quickly. Let's blow them up. Like, let's make them slow down on wanting to come up, because that was a way that Georgia was able to beat Tennessee last year with their scheme. Is, they pretty much relied on their secondary guys to make a lot of the tackles. And as we're going through these lists, these pretty much are all secondary guys, and they're, the ones that are pretty much leading this team in tackles. So they rely very heavily on their secondary to make plays. We've got to run physical. We've got to run through them, and again, kind of discourage them from getting downhill too quickly. All right, last guy that we're going to look at is number 78, Nazir Stackhouse. He's 6'3", 320 pounds. He plays defensive line. He has 2 sacks, and he has 1 interception on the season. So Stackhouse typically plays at the nose guard position. So that's going to be right around Cooper Mays, depending on the front that they're going to show Tennessee. Like I said last season, they did a lot of starting off with 3-man fronts and then kind of walking a linebacker up to the line of scrimmage to give us an even look. But a lot of times where the issues came from was from the nose guard on Cooper Mays. Now, we did see last week that Coop had some trouble when Mizzou did the same thing to him. All right, so I don't know if that's so much on Coop, if it's the left guard, right guard, whatever that is. I promise you, they're going to have that fix coming into this game. Again, Cooper Mays, I feel like he hates Georgia more than anybody else in the entire country, and he always plays with a tough edge. He played well last season. He's gained a lot of weight and strength, I feel like, this season. So expect for him to dominate in that situation, especially in that running game. If we can run on Georgia, which I fully expect for us to, we can have a lot of success everywhere else. We just have to be able to win our one-on-one matchups. And we do have some dogs out there. Keaton is a guy that's coming back to Georgia. He's from Georgia. This is going to be his last game playing in Georgia. So, he's probably going to want to show up and show out. And, we already know Squirrel White's going to do his thing. Again, hopefully Chaz Nimrod and Caleb Webb can kind of step up for us. But those tight ends, I think, are going to be really, really big in this game. As long as we can protect, to me, Stackhouse is the only guy that has the real potential just from their front to, kind of make some noise, to kind of, blow some plays up potentially. But I do think that he's a little bit of a slower twitch guy. So we should be able to have some success up against him in this game. All right, so we looked at the numbers, looked at the players, and, again, Tennessee is going to have to win in the running game. And something else, we're going to have to keep that tempo up. I think that that's really, really big for this football game. And we're going to have to convert on third downs. Okay, we're going to have to convert in the red zone once we get there. All right, if we can do those things, right, we should be fine. Georgia on offense is going to try to slow this football game as much as possible. So there's no need, I don't think, for us to have to worry too much about the defense getting tired, which I think that that's been part of why we have not gone as fast this season. It's played well into the defense's hands, but in this game, the tempo is going to have to be critical. Got to keep it up. We've got to be able to run at Georgia. Like I said, I think that we will be able to find some success there as long as we can spread them out. I do not like that, bunching up with the tight end kind of in the backfield right there, almost as a sniffer or kind of like a wing guy. I don't really like that formation for this offense unless we're going to pass out of it. Now, if we're going to run out of it, I think that we need to kind of flex that tight end out and, again, empty that box up some more and just trust our front five to be able to get their blocks and trust our running backs to be able to get upfield and downhill and just get positive yardage. Okay, if we can 4, 5, 6 yards them on every play running it, we're going to be very, very successful. Something else, Joe Milton is going to have to use his legs in this game. Georgia is a team that is susceptible to the quarterback running, all right? And he's big enough and physical enough that he can run through these guys. He's bigger than pretty much everyone on their second and third levels. So he's gonna have to get downhill, run hard, get those yards. Again, I think that we're gonna do a very good job protecting him in pass protection. Georgia does not have that dominant pass rush that we've seen over the past couple of seasons, and our offensive line has done a pretty good job of keeping Joe Milton clean. He's also had a pretty solid pocket presence. So if things for any reason do break down, again, Joe Milton, use your legs, just keep us ahead of the chains. And if you can do that, we'll be fine. Like I said, on the outside, we have got to be able to win one-on-one matchups, and I think that we can, right? Their secondary guys are just not that big. So our wide receivers, for the most part, are going to be bigger than them, so they can out-physical them. Unfortunately, I have not seen a whole lot of that throughout this season, but maybe this is the game where that light kind of turns on, because Georgia is going to play physical. And sometimes it takes for a team to be overly physical to the point of pretty much cheating, especially on the outside, to light a fire up under some of these guys. Like Cooper May said, if you're not fired up for this game, okay, then, there are not going to be any games that you get fired up for. So I fully expect for us to come out with our hair on fire and, maybe not be completely and totally dominant, but I do think that we can find some success. We've got to take good care of that football, okay? That was a problem for us last week. People tend to, overlook that fact that we were, driving several times throughout that game. We had critical turnovers in bad situations. As long as we keep those things cleaned up, if we can keep it cleaned up, then we're going to be okay in this game. Something else to look out for, last thing, is that Georgia's D-line does this like late shift thing that can draw some false starts on our offensive line. I know that they've studied it. I know that every team this season has studied that, but for whatever reason, once you kind of get into the flow of the game, teams have not done a good job of kind of, keeping that clean and not falling for that shift. We have got to be still until that football is supposed to snap, all right? We have the edge because we're on offense. We know what the cadence is, what the count is. They don't. So let's use that, to help us throughout this game, and let's not be tricked by some of the gimmicky stuff that Georgia likes to do on defense. Guys, I know that y'all are kind of down. I know I keep on touching on this, but have some faith. This is a good football team. Our starters are good. We had one bad game. Well, we had a couple of bad games, but last week bad is why everyone's feeling so down. We have every single opportunity inside of Neyland Stadium with our crowd rocking to be able to come out and shock the damn world. And I fully expect to see a lot more positivity out of our Vol fans. Let's support this team. If you're going to go to the game, get it loud, keep it loud. P and I will probably have something coming out tomorrow with, our final score predictions and things like that on this game. We'll kind of put a bow on this before we get into our tailgate show on Saturday. But I want to see a whole lot more positivity. I feel like I saw that in the last video, seeing you guys down in the comments section, checking these Georgia fans, who are coming in and, making all this noise, barking all the ignorant stuff that they do. They are a crowd, or they are a fan base full of front-running cowards. I can't stand those guys, and I really hope that we can shut them up this weekend. All right, so go Big Orange. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.